Welcome to Legacy and Leadership with David McKean. In my 20 plus years in the business world, I have noticed a common theme amongst all my clients. They're phenomenal leaders who are concerned about leaving a legacy in three main areas: community, family, and financially. Join me as we talk to proven leaders in their field about their specific ideas behind legacy and leadership. Welcome to Legacy and Leadership with David McKean. I am honored today to have Dr. Alec Flynt join us and share some insight on his leadership through the years. Dr. Flynt graduated undergraduate from University of Florida. He went on to get his master's in theology from Princeton University and later his doctorate from Reformed Theological Seminary. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to go back. I'm so glad you brought this up because as your friend and we go.
Yeah, you were probably walking through that with me. Yeah.
And we go to lunch every 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah. And it was fascinating for me to understand about that from the outside perspective. Yeah. So I want to drill down on this because I think this is a crucial leadership skill and place where a lot of leaders fall down and they don't pivot. And to your point, the organization is held back. So I want to spend some time with that. But I know you'll be honest with me, but did it bruise your ego when that individual came to you and said,
"Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? This is going great. I'm awesome. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is like I wanted to tell him, like, who's done this? I don't know anybody's been, and he was really humble, and I tell you what kind of got me was he said, "Listen, I did this." He's like, I made this mistake and I could never get over this hump.
Wow.
And I held my church back. And when he said that to me, I thought, wow, that was so humble to say, and kind of learning from a failure to go, oh no, this isn't like, he's being serious. We could spend the next 30 years doing it like this, and me being that much of a problem. And that kind of got me scared enough where it I don't know, my ego wasn't like, it was more of I want this thing to work and I don't really, I've messed it up. I know but I think there was a lot of kind people that were like, hey, this is a natural part of, growing with your, I mean, this thing started with, this is my baby. Nobody was here. And, I've pastored probably three different types of churches along the way.
During the 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Tell me more about what you were feeling in that time for maybe some of those leaders who are at that point, whether they realize it or not. What were some of the things that you were seeing on a day-to-day basis or in yourself? Because many people won't have somebody tap them on the shoulder and say, David, I know you're running this organization. It's time for you to get out of the way.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I run across leaders doing the same thing and I can spot it now pretty quickly because I can see the same thing. I mean, very tired.
Okay.
Very tired. I don't want to go in. I don't think that it's appropriate to maybe use the clinical psychological terms to it, but in a basic term, like somewhat depressed and downtrodden about just what was going on, feeling like, every day was like sort of, I'm running as fast as I can and we're making no progress. I think I like almost had a twitch from my phone, my phone, like it never stopped. And it was like all day, all night. I mean, and for me, people have different things. I think this is probably, I sort of say is I have two types of feelings, and that's angry or happy. Those are, it's a pretty like I'm pretty I don't have a lot of emotional distinguishing there, but I would find myself angry a lot.
Okay.
And every time the phone would ring, or just angry at the situation. I think feeling like a victim. Sort of like, this is happening to me. That was a big thing too. It's like part of realizing it was, no, you've done this to yourself. Like I wanted to blame everybody else for like, man, this thing is just, I come in, I'm going full scale all day.
Yeah.
The phone rings all night. I'm a victim of this, and being pretty bitter about that. So I think it's just, I think it's one of those things where, the when all trains are coming through, part of it really simply is like your phone is just always going. I mean, and my phone doesn't always go now.
Okay.
I tell people I do far less now than I did 10 years ago, for sure.
That's very helpful.
For sure. And that's part of creating a space as a leader, to be able to think and to be able to look out on what's ahead and to act wisely. Because when you're in that frenzied place of just, you make bad decisions.
Playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, you're playing whack-a-mole all day long. So that would be my, my thought on that is like, if it's sort of like you feel like you can't walk away for a day, you probably don't have the thing organized the right way. You're probably not really leading. You're just a high capacity craftsman.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about that moment that, as you mentioned, you had your baby, right?
Yeah.
That you were growing, and that you had helped mother from the beginning, the organization in a lot of ways. You had the individual tap you on the shoulder and say, you need to do this. And so you make that decision.
Well, and let me back up, because this might be helpful. And I don't know that I've ever even said this publicly, but it wasn't the individual tapping me on the shoulder.
Okay.
It was, I know I had been sent home by the elders at that point. Yeah.
Really?
I'd already been sent home to take a little break.
Sabbatical.
Yeah. Take a deep breath. And that came from, I remember sitting down on the couch one night and just sort of feeling like I was, having a panic attack.
Wow.
And that was like, I told my wife, I was like, I can't get control of myself. I don't know what's going on. And it was just that, running the engine at 5,000 RPMs for so many years,
right,
and like just being so on all the time, that my body had just learned to operate at this level. And when it gave out, it was trying to, keep it up, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, something's wrong. I look back on that, and I'm like, God, I cannot believe that was the way.
You got to that point.
Yeah, because it's totally different now in a much larger organization, and I wouldn't have believed it if you had told me, but it required sort of recognizing, like, I'm not leading, I'm just doing everything.
Sure.
And I'm not raising up leaders. I'm not developing systems and putting them into it. I'm not trusting people. And I have all the good excuses in the world, but I have to empower some people and trust some people to do this. Yeah. And when I did, and I have tremendous people around me, it was just a ridiculous idea, because I look back 5 years later and it's like, man, these people who have taken up for me are way better than me. We had an employment situation yesterday or earlier this week, and I was, I was consulted by one of our supervisors, like, hey, this is going on. And so I made a suggestion about this is the way we should go with it. And they went and talked also to our personnel committee, and these guys are heads of businesses. Yes. And their suggestion was completely the opposite of mine. And when I heard their rationale for it, I was like, yep, that's the right. Yeah. I didn't think about that. That was the wrong thing to do. Right. It's just an example of like the system was working, yes. Where it didn't rely on me sort of coming up with it, yes. And they're in some ways more capable of those things. I'm trained as a theologian, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know HR things. Like, sure. I don't have answers to those sorts of matters. Like, yes. But knowing people that do. Anyway,
so thank you for your vulnerability in that. That's phenomenal. But let me ask you this: you mentioned a couple of things. You knew there needed to be a change, and you mentioned some things. You mentioned trusting other people. You mentioned developing systems. Once you recovered emotionally and personally, can you talk a little bit about some of the specific changes you made to make that pivot so the organization could good growth there.
Yeah, I mean, I would divide them into two things. I mean, I would say it was a change in me, right? To say like I've got to lead and not do, right?
Sure.
And that was there's a lot to that. I mean, that's a day-to-day thing. And sort of accept a little bit of the mantle of it's bigger. I'm a little more of I got to sort of embrace the leader role. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, organizationally, we just, we did a lot of basic things. I mean, we put in an org chart for our employees, and we had people that were supervising those people. We put in, a personnel committee that had, we had job descriptions. Imagine, I mean, when you're in a small business, you're just firing away all the time. Right. It's like, and then people didn't know what they were doing. I made a concerted effort to sort of let my board take certain responsibilities. And the bigger thing about some of that stuff was just me being able to say, the change was like, I can't do that. Or I'm not like, when people would ask me things like, I don't have the capacity, people are always asking me to go here and do this and it's like, I just can't do that. Like, so I narrowed myself down to where now I do 3 or 4 or 5 things, and that's pretty much it. Whereas before I was doing 50 things. And that's hard. It's hard to narrow down because it means people are going to be disappointed in you. Yeah. Hey, we wanted this out of you. And it's like, well, I don't do that. Right. Like I can't, that's just beyond my capacity. Yes. And I've had to sort of accept the fact, one of the things that happens in leadership that I think was really hard, and it was part of the combination of that, was people put you up on a pedestal. They hate leaders, but then they also love leaders. They always want, like the Israelites did, we don't want a judge, we want a king. And they don't even know they're doing it. And I can see when I'm getting put on that pedestal, I'm like, please don't do that. Like, because all that's going to happen is I'm going to disappoint you. Right. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like when I see people doing that, I have to sort of keep my wits about me and be like, don't join them in that, and just be like very, again, trust of like, here are the expectations that I can meet. Your expectation, you may think, gosh, Alec, you're the greatest person in the world. And it's like, well, no. And I don't want you to think that, because I'm going to fail that. And then you're going to be really mad. It would be better if you realized, here's who I actually am. You want to do this easy, hard, or you want to do this hard, easy. Right. If you want to do this the hard way up front. And so those changes were specific. I mean, look, you're sitting in this office right now. It's a silly little change, but I had a downstairs office and it was super accessible. And I had to find some places where I could, limit the traffic. Yes. So I want to be available, but I can't just be available at the snap of a finger. Sure. That was a hard one to swallow.
Boundaries.
Yeah, some boundaries.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So when you made that point of change, was it hesitant? Were you hesitant in making that change because you were concerned of giving up control, or was it because you were exhausted, you were offloading things almost like cargo on a ship?
Yeah, I mean, I was off. Yeah. It was definitely the latter. Yeah, I think it was the latter. And I think the want for control. I mean, you do want the control, but it's also you just don't know any differently. Yeah. You just sort of think this is the only way it can work. And leadership, you've got to go a little further with it than that. And I had a lot of wise people around me who had been through this in their own lives, and were just like, listen, you can't. This is not the way things work. Rick Trees running an air conditioning company was like, you cannot do this. Yes. Just people like that. And it's funny. Rick had warned me for years about this, and I didn't listen.
Really?
Yeah, man. He was telling me 5 years before all that like
you were going to burn yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely. So talk about you made the change, and you've alluded to this, but talk about how the organization has changed. Talk about how you have changed. Maybe juxtapose that with where you were in that moment and where you are now.
Say more about that. What are
5
you
years
looking
later
for?
after making these changes,
Oh, right.
what does it look like for you personally and for the organization?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like the organization immediately grew, which is always, it's just like, confirming the fact that I was clearly the problem, which in my mind, I was clearly the greatest thing ever that made it all happen. But then I quickly realized, oh, wow, this took 2 seconds. What a dummy. So that was joyful in the sense of like just confirmation of, going, yeah, that was right. And I was holding that back. The organization's a lot bigger, a lot more going on. And I do a lot less, like I said. I mean, it's just totally upside down. But it's a bigger ship to steer. So I think, when you're leading this, it's like the mistakes can be really hurtful to a lot of people. Yes. And so you just can't afford to make poor mistakes because you're super busy. And, it's not an excuse. Right. No, in the end, people don't care if you hurt them or you let them down or you're not keeping up your promise to, in our case, we want to lead people to know Jesus and to go further. And if we're not doing that because I'm so busy, that's not an excuse. Right. I'm the leader. I got to go figure that out. And, so I think it's been different. My executive pastor, Lanier's off for sabbatical this summer, and it's like, I'm having to re-engage on a lot of things, particularly he manages the staff. And it's I remember now how different my life was. Like, just the day-to-day of things that I don't typically think about, that are sort of handled really well. And now, I'm always over it. I mean, you don't get the sense of like, I think sometimes in these situations, it's like people think, okay, I am the leader. I am the manager. I am the groundskeeper. I am, so I am, but the way that I do that is like, so I've got somebody like Lanier and I'm like, Lanier, this is how I want this to go. And then he heads off to execute it, which takes a lot of time and effort.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I'm still making sure that it's going the direction I want, but I'm not having to do, it takes time with people.
Yes.
You have to sit with employees and work through things and train and correct. And it's like, he knows this is the way we want to go. So I am doing those things. Yes. And in that sense, I think my job has never changed. It's like, I am the pastor of this church, just doing it differently than I did before. Capacity. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. That's phenomenal. I want to encourage our audience to go back because there is so much meat in what Alec is saying in terms of leadership and making that pivot. So don't be afraid to rewind and revisit some of those. So I'd like to shift the topic just a little bit. Tell us about your thoughts on legacy. What does that word legacy mean to you?
That's interesting. Legacy. It's not a word I think about a lot. I think I'm far too young and good looking to think about legacy. Legacy's for old guys, right?
But you're perhaps halfway through your life.
Okay.
I know how old you are.
Yeah, let's just go easy on that.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
I know. If I'm lucky, that's
you're
the
only
truth.
Halfway through.
I know. I think there's things that I'm trying to accomplish long term, which is maybe what you're asking. I've always said I want to have 1,000-pound gospel proclaiming gorilla in the center of the city. That's what we're trying to do is create a community of believers that are unshaken in their conviction to show Christ forth in the city. And that's, I would love nothing more than for that to go well beyond me. And those are things we're thinking about how to do. And part of that, again, is, when I get smaller as a leader, I think it really helps that because, when I'm everything, you take me out, it's, if you took me out of this thing 5 years ago, it would have, I think, really struggled. And I don't think that's true today. And so, we're trying to do certain things that maybe would lead to that. But, I think that's institutionally, You know, I think personally, I mean, if I died tomorrow, you know, I'd love people just to remember and think he really loved me. You know, he really tried to point me to Jesus. I mean, and he led and wasn't scared, but was doing it always for the right reasons. And I mean, I don't know if always is the best word there, but I mean, tried to do it.
His heart was there.
Yeah, my heart was always there. And just that people would know that my people would know that I loved them a lot and would do anything, anything in my power to have them know Jesus and walk with him. And even if that means doing the thing they don't really like. And I think that's a leadership thing, right? I mean, constantly pressing against, like, they don't really want this, and they're going to be mad at me when that happens, but I know this is what they need. And I hope over time, and I think this is the nice thing about being somewhere a while. I think, you know, there's enough data, you know, now to say that people who've been here a while have experienced that that's the truth. Like, we're not flashy. We're not the quickest, most feel good thing. But if you're here over time, I think you'll come to experience the steadiness in leadership that is just again and again and again, hopefully pointing you to Christ in all things. And I'm sort of a show up guy. I think there's a lot of leaders that have a charisma and ability to sort of affect change really quickly, and I don't know that that's really been my effect. I think I'm here I'm kind of relentless, you know. Yep. I mean, it's like when I was trying to date my wife. I mean, you know, it's like
you wouldn't go away.
6 years of just coming at her just because she just finally gave in, you know. And that's sort of my MO, you know. Right? I'm not the best, but I'm tireless. Yeah. I'm not a give up. Yeah. And that's proven pretty helpful for me.
Yeah, I remember watching a football game when Frank Beamer, the Virginia Tech head football coach, was winding down his career, and the announcer called him a lunch pail kind of guy.
Yeah.
He would show up and bring his lunch pail to work. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you
just be relentless in that sort of stuff. Yeah. But I mean, also look, you know, I'd be happy to be forgotten too. You know, I mean, in a real way, you're playing a role, sure. and you know, you're stepping into a role that somebody will come along and play that role, and hopefully he'll be, you know, love Jesus and be a bold leader and do what's right for the people according to Scripture, and I'll be happy for that.
Yeah,
you know,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. We've talked a lot of different aspects about leadership today. If you had to take just one nugget that's proven successful for you that you could share with our viewers and listeners on legacy leadership, what would that one nugget be?
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I might say don't be scared.
Love it.
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, and a lot of that just goes back to my faith. I mean, if you're somebody who's going to be a leader, man, I would get with Jesus, because, I mean, for me, there's this freedom in Christ of going, I already know who I am. I already know I've been bought and paid for by Christ. And so I'm playing with house money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I've really had that as a leader, I think, and I think people who have been in the room with me, you know, my elders and my board would say this, like, I don't think I have a ton of fear of messing up. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, why don't we just do, what's going to happen? Like, I mean, are we going to lose some money? Okay. You know, or like people, fine, you know. So I think sort of putting all the fear out on the table and I think really following Christ for me has been so crucial in the no fear of what's going to happen. Just to go, I mean, even moving here, you know, is like, what are we doing? You know, I mean, this is such a bad idea on so many levels. But it was like, you know, God's calling us to do this, and what's the worst that's going to happen? We just pick up and go do something else. You know, I mean, it'll be fine. And I think that's, I think people are really oftentimes just too scared just to go for it. And if it fails, great. I mean, you know, so I'd say don't be scared. Moving. Yeah. I mean, I would define, you know, when we're looking at leaders and trying to, you know, let's say nominate elders who are leaders in our church, I always define leadership really simply. It's, for us, it's just, I would say, is anybody following you? You're a leader. I'm talking if two people are following you, you're a leader. You got the ability to have, and sometimes you just need to start with 2 or 3 people. You need to go. I mean, I'm constantly trying to get people to do this in the church. It's like, just go start with 2 or 3.
Right.
And people are scared to even start there. You just got to go for it. Yeah. And there's a lot of reward in it. I mean, I look at it and I think we have gotten the opportunity to be a part of so many people's lives and to make some influence and impact on their life and to get to just share in what they're doing. And like, I never would have had that chance had I not been in leadership, right? I mean, I just get exposed to so many people's lives, and it's crazy and it's daunting, but it's so fun in the end because, like, I know David McKean and I know you really well, and I wouldn't know you if I wasn't in leadership. So it's just a gift of it. I'd say just don't be scared.
I love that. One of my favorite scriptures that I've been really meditating on for the last year plus, and quite frankly, it's out of necessity, is the scripture where Jesus calls Peter out on the water.
Yeah, sure.
And there came a boat, and I get emotional, as you know. There came
you,
a point,
David, you
not me, right?
I was wondering
if that was.
I was thinking that we were. The over under was 2 on the tiers.
So we're 1. But there came a point where Peter literally had to shift his weight from the boat to the water.
Yep.
And Jesus was calling him out there, and he was either, at that point when he shifted his weight, he was either going to walk on water or he was going to sink.
Yeah.
And that's where many people stop.
Yep.
They don't want to shift their weight from the boat to the water.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I'll note, because I'm not a theologian, that's more your cup of tea, is he walked on water as long as his eyes were focused on Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
When he began to see the wind and the waves and the chaos of everything around Jesus was when he began to sink. Yeah. And so that is so phenomenal for me where I am in leadership. At this point in my life, whether it's family or business or whatever, is that I have to keep my eyes focused on Jesus.
And then I think what part of the opportunity in that is, like, I mean, Peter saw the reward. He didn't look at, we're so risk averse and everything. Right. It's like the opportunity cost is huge. Like, Peter walked on water. Everybody else stood in the boat. Yep. And that's, I think, the leadership opportunity. What I'm saying is, like, there's so many things to experience in leadership when you go for it that you'll never experience otherwise. Everyone sitting in the boat misses. I mean, you should see the life I live. It's wild. It's fun. I mean, you do. It's bizarre.
Right.
And I think Peter telling that story 20 years later, man, I got out on that boat. You got to think, like, Bartholomew's just like, we got to hear this again. Like, this guy and his boat walking, and he's thinking, why didn't I get out of the boat? It's like, you could have sunk, but you also got to walk on water. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, Alec, you've been generous with your time and your thoughts, and we are so grateful for that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for your leadership in my life, my family's life, but also your friendships.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Legacy and Leadership with David McKean. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Legacy and Leadership with David McKean, and you're able to take away proven tactics that you can implement in your day-to-day life regarding legacy and leadership. If you have questions or ideas for future shows, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at 251-648-6461, or you can email me at legacyandleadershipgoal@gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining us.